What if I told you there are crops that have been growing in North America for thousands of years? Crops that laugh in the face of drought, that thrive when your sprinklers fail, and that our ancestors cultivated without ever turning on a hose. Today, we're diving deep into the ultimate drought-proof garden. These aren't your typical grocery store vegetables. These are ancient native crops that evolved to survive the harshest conditions this continent could throw at them. And the best part? You can grow every single one of them in your own backyard. And this is Garden Crumbs, where we dig up the forgotten wisdom of the past to grow a better future. Coming in at number 1, we have the absolute champion of drought resistance, the tepary bean. If there's one plant on this list you need to know about, it's this one. Tepary beans have been cultivated in the Sonoran Desert for over 5,000 years. Let that sink in. 5,000 years of growing food in one of the driest places in North America, where summer temperatures regularly exceed 110 degrees Fahrenheit and rainfall is scarce. These beans come in white, brown, and even some beautiful blue varieties. What makes them so special? Their roots can grow down 6 feet or more, accessing water that shallow-rooted plants can't reach. They complete their entire life cycle in just 60 to 90 days, allowing them to mature before the most severe drought conditions hit. In studies, tepary beans have produced full crops with just 10 inches of water for the entire growing season. Your typical green bean needs double or triple that amount. And here's a bonus. Tepary beans are nutritional powerhouses. They're higher in protein than common beans, rich in fiber, and have a wonderful, slightly nutty flavor. You can use them in any recipe that calls for pinto or navy beans. Plant these after your last frost date, give them full sun, and then basically forget about them. No watering needed if you have occasional rainfall. They'll thank you by producing abundant pods all summer long. Next up is a plant that's so stunning, you might mistake it for an ornamental flower, but it's actually one of the most productive grain crops you can grow. I'm talking about amaranth. The Aztecs revered amaranth as a sacred crop. It was a staple food for centuries before colonization, and for good reason. This plant is basically indestructible. Amaranth is what we call a C4 plant, which means it has a super efficient photosynthesis system that allows it to thrive in hot, dry conditions. While your lettuce is wilting in the July heat, amaranth is just getting started. One plant can produce up to 60,000 seeds. Those seeds are tiny, smaller than a pinhead, but they're packed with protein. In fact, amaranth has more protein than wheat and contains all 9 essential amino acids. It's a complete protein source. But wait, there's more. The leaves are also edible and delicious. Young amaranth leaves can be eaten raw in salads or cooked like spinach. As the plant matures, you let it flower and produce those gorgeous seed heads, which you harvest in late summer or early fall. Growing amaranth is ridiculously easy. Scatter seeds after frost, give them full sun, and stand back. They can handle drought, poor soil, and intense heat. The only thing they don't like is frost, so make sure you're past that danger. Now, I know what you're thinking. Squash? Really? Those huge leaves and spreading vines look like they'd need tons of water. But this isn't your typical zucchini, folks. This is Hopi gray squash, and it's been grown in the high desert mesas of Arizona for over 1,000 years. The Hopi people are master dryland farmers. They've maintained their agricultural traditions for centuries in an environment that receives just 8 to 12 inches of rainfall per year. And this squash is one of their signature crops. What makes Hopi gray squash special? First, look at these leaves. See how they're a different texture than regular squash leaves? They're more waxy and tougher. This helps them retain moisture. The vine system also grows incredibly fast early in the season, establishing deep roots before the heat really kicks in. The squash itself is medium-sized, with beautiful gray-blue skin and sweet orange flesh. You can eat them fresh in summer, but they really shine as winter squash. Cured properly, they'll store for months, providing food long after your garden has been buried under snow. Here's a pro tip from traditional Hopi growing methods. Plant them in small mounds or hills about 6 to 8 feet apart. This helps water drain to the roots during the rare rains and protects the crown of the plant. Mix some compost into each hill at planting time, and you're set. The vines will spread out and shade the soil, reducing evaporation. It's a self-mulching system that works beautifully. After the initial establishment watering, these plants can survive on rainfall alone in most climates. Yes, that chia. The same seed that was turned into a novelty gift item in the 80s and is now a superfood darling. But chia's history goes back way further than ceramic pets or trendy puddings. Chia was a staple crop for the Aztecs and Mayans, so important that it was often used as currency. Warriors would carry chia seeds on long journeys, relying on them for sustained energy. As a crop, chia is remarkably low maintenance. It's native to Mexico and Guatemala, adapted to hot, dry climates with summer monsoons. The plant looks a bit like a mint because it actually is in the mint family, with attractive blue-purple flower spikes. Chia needs virtually no water once established. The deep taproot does all the work. You plant it in spring, and by late summer, those flower spikes have turned into seed heads packed with nutritious seeds. And talk about nutrition. Chia seeds are loaded with omega-3 fatty acids, fiber, protein, and various micronutrients. 2 tablespoons contain 10 grams of fiber and 4 grams of protein. They absorb water and form a gel, which makes them perfect for puddings, smoothies, and even as an egg substitute in baking. Growing chia is simple. Direct seed after your last frost. Full sun, well-drained soil. That's it. The plants grow 3 to 4 feet tall and about 18 inches wide. When the seed heads turn brown, clip them off and let them dry completely. Then, thresh out the seeds by rubbing the flower heads between your hands. 1 small bed of chia can produce enough seeds to last your family all year. Not bad for a plant that needs 0 supplemental watering. Alright, now we're moving from annuals to perennials with mesquite. Yes, this is technically a tree, but bear with me, the pods are one of the most important ancient food sources in the Southwest, and if you have the space, mesquite is worth considering. Mesquite trees are the ultimate survivors. They can live for 200 years or more, growing in areas that receive as little as 7 inches of rain per year. How do they do it? Those roots. Mesquite has been recorded sending roots down over 175 feet deep. That's not a typo. Searching for water in underground aquifers. In summer, mesquite produces these long pods. They look a bit like green beans, but they're sweet, really sweet. Indigenous peoples across the Southwest ground these pods into flour for thousands of years. It was a staple food that kept communities fed through harsh winters. Mesquite flour has a sweet, almost caramel-like flavor with a hint of molasses. It's naturally gluten-free and has a low glycemic index, meaning it won't spike your blood sugar like wheat flour. You can use it in pancakes, breads, cookies, or smoothies. Now, I'm not suggesting everyone needs to plant a mesquite tree in their backyard, especially if you're in a cooler climate where they won't thrive. But if you're in zones 8 to 11, particularly in the Southwest, mesquite is an incredible addition to your landscape. It provides shade, fixes nitrogen in the soil, supports native pollinators, and produces abundant food with absolutely 0 irrigation once established. The first year or 2, give it some deep watering to help the roots get down to permanent water, and then you're done. Speaking of 0 irrigation, let's talk about one of the most iconic desert foods, the prickly pear cactus, or nopal as it's known in Spanish. Before you say, I can't grow cactus, I don't live in Arizona. Let me stop you. Prickly pear is incredibly cold hardy. Some species can survive temperatures down to minus 20 degrees Fahrenheit. These cacti grow wild from Massachusetts to Montana, from Canada all the way down to South America. Both the pads, called nopales, and the fruits, called tunas, are edible and delicious. The pads are harvested young when they're tender, carefully de-spined and then grilled, sautéed, or added to scrambled eggs. They taste a bit like green beans with a slight citrus tang and have a slightly mucilaginous texture. Think okra. The fruits are even more special. When ripe, they're sweet and juicy with a flavor that's been described as a cross between watermelon and bubblegum. You can eat them fresh, make them into juice, syrup, jelly, or even wine. From a growing perspective, prickly pear couldn't be easier. You literally break off a pad, let the cut end callus over for a few days, stick it in well-drained soil, and walk away. It'll root and start growing. No watering, no fertilizing, no fussing. These plants actually perform worse with too much water and rich soil. They want to be neglected. Full sun, poor soil, zero supplemental water. That's the recipe for success. One mature prickly pear can produce dozens of fruits and hundreds of pads per year. It's essentially a living food source that takes care of itself. The only maintenance is harvesting, which you need to do carefully to avoid the spines. Now here's one that might surprise you. Desert marigold. Most people think of this as purely an ornamental wildflower, but indigenous peoples have been harvesting the seeds as a food source for generations. Desert marigold blooms almost year-round in mild climates, producing cheerful yellow flowers that look like small daisies. Those flowers turn into seed heads packed with tiny, nutritious seeds. The seeds can be ground into meal and used similarly to how you'd use sunflower seed meal, in breads, porridges, or as a nutty topping for salads. They're rich in protein and healthy fats. But even if you never harvest a single seed, desert marigold earns its place in the drought-proof garden as a pollinator magnet. Bees, butterflies, and other beneficial insects love these flowers, and they bloom when many other plants have given up in the heat. Growing desert marigold is simple. Scatter seeds in fall or early spring, maybe water them once to get them started, and then forget about them. They reseed themselves, so you'll have a permanent population once you get them established. They're low-growing plants, 8 to 12 inches tall, perfect for border edges or as a ground cover. And remember, they're native across the Southwest, so they're perfectly adapted to hot, dry conditions. Yucca is another plant that most people don't think of as food, but nearly every part of this plant is useful and edible. Various yucca species have been used by indigenous peoples from the Southwest to Central America for thousands of years. The flowers are edible and have been described as tasting like a cross between artichoke hearts and green beans. You can eat them raw in salads, sauté them, or add them to soups. The unopened flower buds are especially tender and delicious. The fruits that form after flowering are also edible, though the method varies by species. Some can be eaten raw when ripe, others need to be roasted or dried. But perhaps the most important part of the yucca is the root. Certain species, like cassava yucca, produce large, starchy roots that can be harvested, processed, and eaten like potatoes. They're labor-intensive to process, but they were a crucial food source in areas where other crops struggled. Beyond food, yucca fiber was used for rope, sandals, baskets, and cloth. The soapy saponins in the roots were used for washing. This is a true multi-purpose survival plant. From a growing standpoint, yucca is bulletproof. It handles extreme drought, poor soil, blazing heat, and bitter cold. Some species are hardy to Zone 4. Plant it once, and it'll outlive you, slowly forming large clumps that you can divide if you want more plants. Full sun, well-drained soil, zero supplemental water. That's all it needs. In return, you get architectural beauty, edible flowers and fruits, and a plant that connects you to thousands of years of human history. Buffalo gourd is what I call a love it or hate it plant. It's aggressive, it spreads like crazy, and if you're not careful, it'll take over your garden. But hear me out, because this plant is absolutely fascinating. Native to the Great Plains and Southwest, buffalo gourd has been used for at least 10,000 years. Archaeological evidence shows that it may have been one of the first plants cultivated in North America. The gourds themselves aren't eaten. They're bitter and generally not palatable. But the seeds inside, those are the treasure. Large, flat, and extremely nutritious, buffalo gourd seeds are rich in protein and oil. Roasted, they taste similar to pumpkin seeds, but with a richer, more complex flavor. What makes buffalo gourd drought-proof is its enormous root system. The plant produces a massive underground tuber that can weigh 100 pounds or more. This tuber stores water and nutrients, allowing the plant to survive years of drought. The above-ground vines die back each winter, but that root stays alive underground, sending up new growth each spring. Now, fair warning, only plant buffalo gourd if you can contain it or if you have a lot of space. The vines can run 20 to 30 feet in a single season. But for people dealing with seriously harsh, dry conditions, this plant is a survivor. It needs zero supplemental water once established, tolerates terrible soil, and produces abundant seeds. You can contain it by planting it in a raised bed with barriers or by growing it in an area where its spreading won't be a problem, like along a fence line or in a designated wild area. For our final crop, we're going back to perennials with one of the most prized foods of the Southwest: pinyon pine nuts. For thousands of years, indigenous peoples of the Great Basin and Southwest relied on pinyon pine nuts as a dietary staple. Entire seasonal rounds were organized around the pine nut harvest. Communities would travel to pinyon groves in late summer and fall, gathering enough nuts to last through winter. And it's no wonder. Pine nuts are incredibly nutritious, high in protein, healthy fats, vitamins, and minerals. They're also delicious with a rich, buttery flavor that's prized in cuisines around the world. Pinyon pines are slow-growing trees adapted to harsh, dry conditions. They grow in areas receiving as little as 10 to 15 inches of rain per year. Once established, they need absolutely no supplemental water. Now, here's the catch. Pinyon pines take 25 to 30 years to start producing significant crops of nuts. This is not a quick harvest crop. This is a legacy planting. Something you do for future generations. But think about it this way. If someone had planted a pinyon pine 30 years ago, you could be harvesting pounds of delicious, nutritious nuts right now. And 30 years is going to pass whether you plant that tree or not. If you're in zones 5 to 9 in the western United States and you have well-drained soil and full sun, consider adding a pinyon pine to your landscape. It's a beautiful tree, important for wildlife, and eventually it'll produce food with zero inputs from you. So there you have it. 10 ancient native crops that can transform your garden from a water-guzzling burden into a drought-proof, self-sustaining food system. Let's recap: tepary beans, amaranth, Hopi gray squash, chia, mesquite, prickly pear, desert marigold, yucca, buffalo gourd, and pinyon pine. Each one has been proven over thousands of years to produce food in the harshest conditions. Now, I want to be clear about something. I'm not suggesting you rip out your entire garden and replace it exclusively with these plants. What I am suggesting is that we can learn from these ancient crops. We can incorporate them into our modern gardens, reducing our water usage while increasing our resilience. Maybe you start with just 1 or 2. Plant some tepary beans this year instead of regular green beans. Add a prickly pear cactus to that sunny corner where nothing else grows. Scatter some amaranth seeds in your cutting garden for both beauty and grain. These plants represent thousands of years of human ingenuity and selection. They're living links to the people who came before us, who managed to thrive in difficult environments by working with nature instead of against it. And in a world where water is becoming increasingly precious, where droughts are longer and more severe, these ancient crops might just be our future. I'd love to hear from you. Have you grown any of these crops? What's your experience been? Are there other drought-proof native plants you'd add to this list? Drop your thoughts in the comments below. And if you found this video helpful, please give it a thumbs up and subscribe to Garden Crumbs. We're on a mission to rediscover forgotten growing wisdom and share it with everyone who wants to grow food more sustainably. Until next time, keep growing, keep learning. And remember, sometimes the best solutions to modern problems can be found in ancient seeds.